Have you ever noticed how you can enter an argument absolutely certain that you're right, yet within a few minutes you start to feel guilty? You know you haven't done anything wrong, but something unsettles you on the inside. A quiet thought creeps in. Maybe it really is my fault. If this feels familiar, chances are you've been dealing with someone who is very skilled at shifting responsibility onto others. When you're in close contact with a person who shows narcissistic traits, conversations and conflicts rarely stay honest. Their goal is never to listen, understand, or reach common ground. For them, every disagreement is a contest where there can only be a winner and a loser. And they will do everything possible to make sure you are the one left holding the blame. One of the most powerful tools in their arsenal is blame shifting. They twist dialogue into subtle manipulation, turning your words against you, flipping facts upside down, and making you the one who seems at fault. You may step into a discussion calm and confident, but before long you begin to doubt yourself. What if I really did ruin everything? That uneasy feeling isn't random. It's created through a system of tactics, repeated again and again. Each of these tactics chips away at your confidence and gradually strips you of the right to trust your own truth. Let's look closely at the ways this blame shifting works and how it traps you in the role of the guilty one. The first tactic: direct accusation. This is the simplest, yet also the most painful tactic. There's no subtlety, no clever maneuvering. It relies entirely on pressure and emotional force. The narcissist takes a situation and, without hesitation, places the entire burden of responsibility on you. The words are short, sharp, and condemning. This is all your fault. You always ruin everything. If it weren't for you, none of this would have happened. In these moments, details, facts, or logic no longer matter. What matters to them is not truth, but effect, knocking you off balance and flooding you with guilt or shame. That's why accusations like this are often delivered suddenly, at a raised volume, and with such confidence that it feels impossible to question them. You don't even get the chance to think or respond. A wave of words crashes over you, leaving only confusion and silence. The strength of direct accusation lies in its shock value. Picture this. You're discussing something completely ordinary, running late, buying groceries, making plans for the evening. Then, out of nowhere, you hear, "This is all your fault. You never get anything right." For a split second, you freeze. You lose your train of thought and automatically start searching for what you did wrong. That pause, that seed of doubt, is exactly what they're after. Sometimes this tactic comes with an outright emotional assault, yelling, criticism, exaggerated gestures. Other times it takes a colder form, a calm, steady voice delivered with absolute certainty. And oddly, the cold tone can feel even more convincing. When someone speaks without emotion, but with total conviction, it sounds like a fact carved in stone. That's the moment when you stop arguing with them and start arguing with yourself. Maybe I really am to blame? It's important to recognize that direct accusation has nothing to do with reality. It's a tool of power. The more often it's used, the faster you start to slip into the role of the guilty one. Over time, it conditions you. Every sign of dissatisfaction from your partner automatically feels like your mistake. That's the true goal of this tactic, to lock you into a pattern where you carry guilt by default, even when the responsibility clearly isn't yours. The second tactic: the staging of guilt. If direct accusation is like a blow to the face, loud, sharp, and obvious, then the staging of guilt works like poison that seeps in slowly but surely. There's no shouting here, no sudden bursts of aggression, no harsh words. On the surface, it almost looks harmless. Gentle tones, heavy sighs, vague hints. And yet, It's in this quietness that the real danger hides. The narcissist sets the stage as if putting on a small play, and in this performance, they are always the victim. The scene is acted out with such conviction that you start to feel guilty, even when you've done nothing wrong. Everything is delivered with a shade of disappointment, a touch of sorrow, a sense of cold melancholy. Of course, go ahead. I'm already used to the fact that you always have something more important than me. These words don't carry open aggression, and that is exactly why they cut so deep. They slip past logic and go straight into your heart. What matters in this tactic is not what's said outright, but what is implied. The unspoken message is always the same. You've hurt me. You've neglected me. You've shown once again that I don't matter to you. The narcissist never says this directly. Instead, they put on the mask of a sufferer. And that's when guilt kicks in. Direct hostility might trigger resistance, but subtle disappointment awakens the urge to justify yourself, to comfort, to prove that you care. Why is this so dangerous? Because it blurs the line between reality and manipulation. You truly haven't done anything wrong. Maybe you just wanted to see a friend, finish your work, or take a moment for yourself. Completely normal choices. But in the way the narcissist frames it, your simple, everyday actions are twisted into proof of betrayal. Suddenly you find yourself apologizing for something that never needed an apology. Over time, this method grows stronger. You begin to feel tension even in the smallest situations. A call from a friend, staying late at the office, asking for a little personal space. In your mind, you already hear their voice. You'll upset me. I'll feel ignored. You'll prove again that I'm not important to you. And so you start limiting yourself. Not because you want to, but because you're trying to prevent the next scene from unfolding. The staging of guilt is a refined psychological trap. It doesn't shatter you all at once. It builds a cage around you, bar by bar. Inside that cage, anything you do can be twisted into not enough love or not enough attention. And the most deceptive part is how innocent it looks from the outside. To others, it may seem like your partner isn't shouting, isn't insulting, even speaking with tenderness. But it's in that very tenderness that the poison hides, because the real goal is not care or closeness. It's to make you doubt yourself constantly and to feel guilty more and more often, even where guilt has no place. The third tactic, returning to the past. One of the most exhausting tactics is the constant use of old events as ammunition. It's as if the narcissist keeps an archive of every small mistake or misstep, stored away and ready to be pulled out whenever they sense they might lose an argument. The current issue disappears almost instantly, replaced with something that supposedly happened years ago. For example, being late today suddenly becomes proof that you're always irresponsible, because once long ago, you missed an important meeting. A casual phrase you said in the past is twisted into evidence that you never really cared about their feelings. Every present moment is tied to an old incident, stitched together to create the impression that your behavior is part of a long-standing pattern of failure. This tactic is especially damaging because you can't really argue with the past. Details fade with time, memories blur, and it's impossible to reconstruct events exactly as they were. Meanwhile, the narcissist presents their version of those events with absolute certainty. That leaves you in the impossible position of defending yourself against something that may have happened years ago. Something you thought was already resolved and buried, slowly. A heavy feeling sets in. The sense that no mistake will ever disappear. That every slip, no matter how small, will eventually be used against you. The idea of growth or change is erased. Because no matter what you do today, the past will be summoned to overshadow it. The result is predictable. A constant sense of guilt, not tied to reality, but carefully cultivated through repetition. This guilt isn't about what's happening now. It's about keeping you under control. By chaining you to old accusations, the narcissist reinforces their power and ensures that you remain stuck in a role where you always owe an explanation. The fourth tactic: gaslighting. Gaslighting is not just manipulation. It's an entire system of rewriting reality. It works more quietly than yelling and is far more dangerous than direct blame. At its core, it makes you question your own perceptions and memories. The phrases sound ordinary, almost casual. You made that up. That never happened. You misunderstood. At first, they seem absurd and provoke resistance. But when repeated over and over, these words begin to blur the boundary between what you truly saw, felt, and experienced. And the version of events the narcissist insists is the truth. This tactic works through repetition and accumulation. One day, they deny saying something they clearly said yesterday. Another day, they claim that the events you remember never took place. Then they confidently declare that your reactions are nothing but imagination. The more often this cycle repeats, the weaker your trust in your own perception becomes. You start to wonder, maybe I did make a mistake, maybe I'm overreacting, maybe my memory really isn't reliable. Bit by bit, your inner confidence crumbles. You stop trusting yourself and begin turning to them for confirmation of reality. They exploit this shift, positioning themselves as the only true witness, the only one who knows what really happened. The danger of gaslighting is that it erases the most basic anchors we rely on. With direct accusations, at least facts can be argued. But here, facts vanish. The narcissist redraws the boundaries with ease. Day becomes night. Said becomes unsaid. Done becomes undone. And the calmer they present this, the more convincing it sounds. Over time, the consequences grow heavy. You stop trusting your own memories, dismiss your feelings, and explain away your doubts by assuming something must be wrong with you. Life turns into a constant search for reassurance from someone else. Am I seeing this correctly? Am I reacting the right way? Can I trust what I hear and feel? Gaslighting is not a simple disagreement about details. It is a deliberate dismantling of your inner foundation. It leaves you dependent, vulnerable, and uncertain of yourself. Because once you can no longer lean on your own truth, once your emotions and memory feel unreliable, the narcissist gains complete control over what your reality will be. The fifth tactic: role reversal. This tactic can be compared to a stage performance where the roles switch in an instant. Just moments ago, you were facing an aggressor, someone speaking sharply, pressing, raising their voice. And then, almost immediately, they transform into the helpless victim. Suddenly, you are cast as the guilty party. The mechanics are simple. The narcissist does everything possible to make you feel guilty by flipping the situation upside down. They might shout, insult, or deliberately belittle you. But the moment you try to respond or defend your boundaries, they instantly change masks. Their words now sound wounded, almost desperate. You're pressuring me again. You're always yelling at me. I can't take this kind of cruelty. In one breath, the aggressor becomes the sufferer, and you find yourself forced into the role of the one who must explain and justify. What makes this switch so dangerous is its speed. It happens like a sudden twist in a story. You were standing up for yourself just seconds ago, and now you're at the center of accusations. The more emotion the narcissist pours into this performance of victimhood, the more absurd the situation feels. Inside, confusion grows. How did this happen? How did I go from defending myself to being seen as the attacker? The goal of this tactic is to disorient you and strip away your certainty. When the roles are reversed, it becomes nearly impossible to retrace where it all began. The original issue is erased, And instead of addressing their behavior, you're stuck defending your own. Over time, this reversal becomes predictable. You learn that any form of resistance will be turned against you. Even something as simple as saying, "Stop yelling at me," will be twisted into, "You're the one yelling." And so, a pattern forms. It feels safer to keep quiet, to step back, to restrain yourself, rather than risk being painted as the cruel one. Role reversal carries another layer as well. It makes you question your own emotional reality. You start to wonder, maybe I really did go too far? Maybe I sounded harsher than I thought. Maybe my words came out more cutting than I intended. Slowly, your faith in your own fairness erodes, along with your right to defend yourself. What makes this tactic especially insidious is the outward appearance. To outsiders, the narcissist often seems like the true victim, sighing, raising their hands, showing visible hurt. And in their version of the story, you're the one creating all the tension. This robs you of external support, because to others, it may genuinely look as if you are the aggressor. In the end, role reversal becomes a powerful tool of control. Aggression is disguised as suffering. Attack is masked as self-defense. And the more often this pattern repeats, the harder it is to break free. Because every attempt to speak the truth gets spun around and presented as yet another piece of evidence that you are the one at fault. The sixth tactic, collective pressure. When personal manipulation doesn't deliver the desired effect, the narcissist turns to an even stronger weapon: other people. They know how to use those around them as witnesses, allies, and even as a kind of jury, where the verdict has already been decided against you. In their version of events, every story becomes a performance, one in which the audience only sees the side that benefits them. How does this play out? First, they retell the situation to friends, relatives, or colleagues. But they do it in such a way that you are already cast as the guilty one before you've even had a chance to speak. In their story, they are the one who suffered, who invested, who endured, while in return, they received only coldness, neglect, or betrayal. Details are embellished or ripped out of context, and your perspective is either left out entirely or distorted beyond recognition. Then comes the final strike. Everyone thinks you're wrong. Those words carry the weight of isolation. Because it's one thing to argue with a single person, difficult but still possible. It's something else entirely to feel like you're arguing against everyone. Suddenly, you're surrounded by a wall of disapproval, and the loneliness of that moment is crushing. This tactic is particularly destructive because it attacks more than just self-esteem. It strikes at the core human need for support and belonging. When it feels as if even those closest to you see you as guilty, your inner strength drains rapidly. You start to feel that fighting back is pointless, that your truth has drowned in someone else's interpretation. The narcissist understands perfectly how collective pressure works. Even if nobody has actually spoken against you, the mere mention of other people's opinions is enough to shake your confidence. What if they really do think that? What if something actually is wrong with me? Doubt takes root, and little by little, that doubt grows into guilt. Collective pressure is also convenient because it's nearly impossible to verify. The narcissist can claim that a friend made a comment you'll never be able to confirm, or that there were conversations which most likely never took place. Yet in the heat of conflict, it sounds convincing. I talked to your friend, and she agrees you went too far. Or, everyone at work has noticed your attitude. And just like that, an illusion forms. The image that your supposed flaws are already known to everyone around you. Over time, these repeated claims create a vicious circle. You begin to feel guilty not just toward your partner, but toward their family, their friends, and eventually toward the entire social circle around you. Even if no one actually said a word, the thought that everyone is against me starts to take hold. And with that thought comes compliance. You become softer, more agreeable, easier to control. Collective pressure is a way of breaking resistance through the weight of isolation. When a person feels cut off from support, they are far more likely to accept the role of the guilty one that has been forced upon them. And that is exactly what the narcissist wants. To create an atmosphere where you are left without allies, without support, and without an anchor inside yourself, with only them left to define the truth. The seventh tactic, stripping away your right to the truth. All of the tactics we've covered, the accusations, the subtle hints, the trips back into the past, the twisting of reality, the use of others, they all build toward one final goal. That goal is simple, but devastating: to leave you without the ability to defend your own position. The narcissist wants to strip you of your right to your truth, reducing your words to empty noise that no one takes seriously. This shows up in many forms. Sometimes they interrupt constantly, cutting you off before you can even finish a single sentence. Other times they answer with irony, mockery, or dismissal. You're talking nonsense. You're being dramatic again. That's laughable. In this way, anything you say is robbed of weight before it has even had the chance to land. Even when you bring clear arguments or evidence, it is automatically declared unreliable. Screenshots, messages, witnesses, all of it can be brushed aside in an instant. With just a few words, they reduce it to made-up stories, overblown interpretations, or pure imagination. And the most painful part is the way they deliver this with such absolute confidence, as if their version were not just one perspective, but the final and only truth. Over time, you begin to notice that arguing has become impossible. Every attempt to defend yourself drowns in sarcasm, denial, and ridicule. You feel as though you exist in a space where your words have no weight at all. Even when they are logical and backed up by facts, they are brushed aside as irrelevant. The feeling this creates is one of helplessness. It's like shouting into an empty void, speaking, explaining, proving, only to be met with silence or laughter. Gradually, you stop insisting on your truth. You stop arguing. You fall quiet more often, because deep down you already know the outcome. Whatever you say will be rejected. This is the point at which the narcissist achieves their goal. They become the sole bearer of truth. Their words sound like the final verdict, while their version of reality is accepted as the only one that matters. Meanwhile, your own experience, your feelings, your reality are pushed to the sidelines and stripped of value. And this is how complete dependence is created. When someone takes away your right to your own truth, you lose your inner foundation. This is the most powerful form of control. Because once you no longer trust your own arguments or your own perceptions, you have nothing left to stand on. You end up relying only on what they tell you. Blame shifting is not a single gesture. And it's not just an occasional argument. It's an entire system, carefully built piece by piece to strip a person of their inner foundation. Direct accusations knock the ground out from under you. The staging of guilt plants doubt in your intentions. Returning to the past turns mistakes into permanent scars. Gaslighting erodes trust in your own memory. Role reversal flips defense into attack. Collective pressure leaves you isolated. And stripping away your right to the truth shuts the door on any chance to stand your ground. All of these tactics connect into one continuous chain, a system designed to make you vulnerable and easy to control. The ultimate goal is power and dominance. It's never about what truly happened. What matters to them is that you accept their version of reality. They don't seek resolution. They seek to cement superiority. And that's why guilt becomes their weapon of choice. It freezes you, drains your confidence, forces you to explain and defend yourself over things that never should have required explanation in the first place. But here's the weakness in the system. It only works as long as you play along. As long as you're explaining, arguing, and defending, you're still inside the trap. The moment you recognize the pattern, its power starts to fade. Awareness is the first step toward protection. Once you can see the tactic for what it is, you can stop reacting automatically. You can pause. You can choose not to engage. You can refuse to let someone else's words rewrite your reality. The guilt that's being forced on you has nothing to do with truth. It is a tool of pressure, a way to maintain control. And the sooner you recognize it for what it is, the less chance it has to take root. Real strength lies in reclaiming your right to your own feelings, your own memories, your own voice. Because where that inner foundation is restored, the game of blame shifting simply stops working.